So there's something that I've been dealing with a couple of times on my Star Trek journey, and ever since being a fan, many people out there, many fans out there, many of us out there, probably at some point felt the same way as I felt with this particular issue, when you get the title that you are not a true Star Trek fan. I certainly felt myself a few times like this, that oh, maybe I'm not a true Star Trek fan because I don't do certain things and I don't know certain things. But the problem is with this analogy that it's false and it makes you feel bad unnecessarily. Hello Trekkies, and welcome back with another video of TREKKERPRISE. Well, thank you very much for joining me again. As I mentioned, today we're going to talk about something totally different. Is the aspect of being a fan that I really wanted to touch on at one point in my videos. I remember when I joined the online community about 4 years ago, I knew no one, and I always thought that I always was alone with my Star Trek things, and I never really had any chance to talk to people, to make friends, and really just connect with other Star Trek fans. And so I always thought that, you know, I had my little bubble. I had a few cardboard cutouts of starships and other pictures that I've just kept dearly from the TV guide, and even like a really old AMT Enterprise that I still own. But ever since I joined in the online community, you see all these wonderful people dressing up with different costumes, and you know, owning a lot of things, a lot of starship collection, a lot of uniform collection or prop collection, or just, you know, being able to go and see different events and different participating with different things that I wasn't really able to do for a long time. I never really had to face this this side of the fandom, that I felt myself not like a real fan. I felt myself less of a fan, and I realized lately that feeling that is totally wrong, or it not to be considered as a real fan, which is another outright stupid thing, in my opinion. That being said, being a fan of Star Trek, that I consider myself, yeah, maybe I don't have a massive collection of Starship, just these ones in the back, or a few posters that I own, and maybe one or two t-shirts that I had, but being worn out and I have never replaced them. But that doesn't really make me necessarily less of a fan. But of course, being online and seeing all these amazing people can be a tiny bit intimidating, because, you know, you start comparing yourself to others, like, oh, that guy went to the Star Trek convention, or that person does fantastic interviews with every actors, or, you know, oh, they know everyone, or they have all the Starship collections that, you know, you can imagine. They watched every different show, they watched everything that they could, and that sometimes that even made me feel bad, because I thought, okay, I'm not a fan of Star Trek. If I didn't do that, so I'm less of a person. And of course you're gonna compare yourself to other people who are able to attend every single convention in every single year, and you will be only able to go to once in every 2 or 3 years. Of course, it might be intimidating, and you might feel less of a fan, but let me tell you something, my friend. You're not. Being a Star Trek fan is not about how big your collection is, how many conventions you attended, how many you know, actors you met, or how many friends you have out there. I have a handful of friends that I really love and adore, and I would do almost anything for them. And I got to know them through Star Trek, and I'm so glad to have these relationships. I'm so glad, I'm so happy to have a few models in the background. I love the fact that I was able to go to a few places, but it nevertheless makes me less of a Trekkie because I wasn't able to do everything. The concept behind of being a true Star Trek fan is a false concept, because there's no such thing as a true Star Trek fan. There is a Star Trek fan. Let me know in the comment section below, what does it mean to you to be a Star Trek fan. Before I go, I would like to give a big shout out to our very first Patreon, Starfleet Boy, who became our very first Patreon in the TREKKERPRISE community. This counts as an official announcement that I have made a Patreon page, and of course you can go out there, some perks that you can expect from being a Patreon. Your contribution is not mandatory, of course. It's an option to support my work on TREKKERPRISE. and to make this experience better for everyone. I'm gonna put a link in the description box below, so feel free to check it out, but as I mentioned, it's not mandatory. If you just decide to watch a video or two, then totally fine. I always appreciate it as very much wholeheartedly. Thank you very much for watching this video, and until next time, live long and prosper.